ladies and gentlemen. This is Jeff Rains coming to you again with Foundation of Civilization. It is, we've had another week and lots of things that are going on. Unfortunately, it's been a busy and I'd say exciting week, but sometimes the excitement isn't so much about excitement as it is danger. So, what's been happening around the world? How are peace talks going between Russia and Ukraine? How's Canada holding out on those tariffs? And what deployments is the U.S. committed to that they're expanding their war against the cartels? Well, I'll get into it here very shortly. Like I always say, our world runs on energy, so that's where I start. West Texas Intermediate Crude ended the week at $63.66. Brent North Sea crude ended the week at $67.73, and OPEC ended the week at $70.01. Gold ended the week at $3,372.64. Silver was up a little bit, along with the gold, at $38.89. The Baltic Exchange Dry Goods Index ended the week down a little bit from last week, down about $100 at $1,944. The bonds of the some of the major markets, the United States, UK, and Japan. United States 10-year bond ended the week at 4.264%, and the UK ended the week at 4.6965%. Japanese bonds ended the week at 1.6189%. They were up a little bit this week. Now, I wanted to note that the ships are still piling up around the Straits of Hormuz, which indicates that there's something going on, or people are concerned. I should say companies are concerned that something is going on. 20% of the world's oil goes through that area. The oil from Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Iraq, and whatever they can get out of Iran. Military ISR flights across the United States continue as has been expected. A lot along the southern border, a bunch along the western mountains. They seem to be pushing a little bit further south also, and obviously with the deployment to with the ships headed towards Venezuela. As far as the ships that are deployed, we have 293 ships in the U.S. Navy. 103 are deployed, 62 are underway. The USS Abraham is operating off the coast of Alaska. The Carl Vinson returned home to San Diego, California last Thursday. The Dwight D. Eisenhower, last word we had was in Norfolk. The George H.W. Bush departed Norfolk, Virginia on Tuesday. The USS George Washington arrived in Guam last Sunday. Last we heard it arrived in Guam. The Gerald R. Ford transited the Straits of Gibraltar, then headed to north towards the Straits of Dover into the North Sea. USS Nimitz departed the Persian Gulf and is operating in the North Arabian Sea. The Harry S. Truman returned to Norfolk, Virginia. The Ronald Reagan, last we showed, was in Bremerton, Washington. The Theodore Roosevelt returned to San Diego last Friday, not yesterday, last Friday. USS America is operating last we had was operating in the Philippine Sea, which actually I believe that is probably over. It's probably operating somewhere else right now. The USS Tripoli is in Sasebo, Japan. No word on the Wasp. The USS Iwo Jima, that is the one. It is the Marine ship that is headed towards Venezuela to assist in anti-cartel operations. European markets. This week, the DAX ended the week at 24,359.30. The FTSE ended the week at 9,142.15. The CAC 40 ended the week at 7,926.09. The IBEX ended the week at 15,277.20. European leaders these guys. When I do these things, I'm always asking myself, I'm scratching my head, wondering what's going on behind the scenes. What are they thinking? What are they doing? Why are they doing it? And I always know something else is behind what's happening. So this week, last week, the U.S. president met with the Russian president, and for different diplomatic reasons, they were not at the same place at the same time. The Russians don't recognize the Ukrainian president at this moment. So they met separately. And when the Ukrainian president came to visit the U.S. president, a bunch of EU leaders were concerned that something was going to go on, an agreement was going to be made, and they were going to be left out. Honestly, if the EU leaders wanted to be able to dictate what was going to happen, they should have taken a more prominent role over the past couple of years. But there were a lot of suggestions that occurred. One of them was that EU leaders would provide military ground force to stabilize Ukraine. Russia rejected this idea outright, but they agreed that if it was just U.S. forces, they might be willing to go along with that. Lots of wrangling back and forth, and honestly, I don't know how much is going to really come out of this. I get the sense that they're going to make a deal, and somebody, I don't know if it'll be Russia or the EU, they'll point fingers at each other, I know, but somebody will break the deal. Somewhere, somehow, they I don't know, they just can't seem to help themselves. And I think it's really sad because for the longest time, we've needed to be able to provide a peace deal and bring Russia into the fold, into the European fold, as opposed to leaving them on the outs the whole time. And don't try to tell me that Russia is a dictatorship. I mean, have you seen what they're doing in the UK, Ireland, Germany, France? They're getting pretty dictatorial themselves. Now, as far as soldiers on the ground in Ukraine, the U.S. president rejected that idea, but offered maybe air power. Any which way this goes, I don't see that it really is going to work out as well as we want it to. We've got to resolve things somehow. So people are going to have to recognize they're not going to get everything that they want. So both sides continue to attack each other. In fact, while the aircraft was in the air, Ukrainians launched an attack against a pipeline, a Russian pipeline that provided energy to Hungary. They killed 20 people in Russia, but the Hungarian minister was outraged because now they're not getting the oil that they wanted, and Ukraine didn't seem to care. They seem to be just as happy to watch them struggle and suffer. That just doesn't, that just doesn't make sense to me. Other attacks, I was looking at here August 16th, Ukrainian Defense Intelligence conducted an operation in the occupied area of Melitopol and the Zaporozhye region. And they destroyed a Russian ammunition depot and an enemy personnel deployed to the Zaporozhye front. They continued drone attacks into Russia, deep into Russia. There's just just a bunch of violence and needless loss of life. And now, if anything could have scuttled the peace talks, it would be the exposure of Ukraine's involvement in the destruction of infrastructure. Well, the alleged perpetrator that destroyed the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, a $20 billion Nord Stream 2 pipeline, was just arrested by German authorities in Italy. The man's name is Serhiy K. All we have is a K for his last name. He was arrested by Italian police in Rimini overnight, Thursday night. Overnight, Wednesday into Thursday night. He's facing extradition into Germany and on charges of causing an explosion, anti-constitutional sabotage, and destruction of infrastructure. Meanwhile, in the rest of Europe, Spain and Portugal continue to experience massive fires. 31,000 people have fled. Thousands upon thousands of acres or hectares have been burned. In the UK, protests continue to erupt over illegal immigration or immigration in general. And they're conducting something that they call flagging events. It is not common in the UK to see the St. George's flag, neither the Union Jack. It is a little more common to see other flags, such as the Indian or Pakistani flag. Well, protesters are now posting those flags, and they are painting the zebra crossings or crosswalks, if you're American, with red stripes so that they resemble the St. George's flag. The people are showing a little more pride in their country, and they're trying to encourage newcomers to join them and to assimilate. I don't know how well it's going to work, but they're at least trying. In Asia, the Nikkei ended the week at 42,608.17. The SSE Composite Index ended the week at 3,824.36. The Hang Seng ended the week at 25,316.67. The BSE Sensex ended the week at 81,393.42. And the Nifty 50 ended the week at 24,870.25. The Chinese and the Pakistani ministers met to discuss launching new projects through the Chinese-Pakistan Economic Corridor, the CPEC. And this is one of the flagship programs of China's Belt and Road Initiative. China also met with India, the Indian foreign ministers, and hopefully they'll be able to work out some of the issues that they have. They both have some disputed land, or some area that is disputed. Some land is occupied by India, some land is occupied by China, and most of these they've agreed not to militarize. So they keep military troops out of there, armed troops out of there. China also updated their regulations on rare earth minerals. They agreed to issue some permits for rare earth exports, but not for military use. And the rules released Friday spell out tighter controls on licensing companies dealing with rare earths and centralized controls on mining, exports, and processing. They also impose more stringent environmental standards for the industry. Over in India, they test fired an intermediate range ballistic missile, the Agni 5. This missile it's a hypersonic missile capable of speeds at Mach 24. Now over in the Middle East, Israel continues to dominate the news cycle. They activated 60,000 reservists and are preparing to move into Gaza, what's left of Gaza. Over in Syria, they are preparing to mobilize 50,000 troops, which I'm kind of surprised they'd be able to get that many troops together, but maybe they will. Their plan is to move against the Kurds that live in Syria. That should provide some interesting things that will happen. If the Kurds get together, then the Syrian army could be in trouble. But the Kurds are often divided, so who knows? We'll have to wait and see what happens. Over in Iran, the IRGC conducted a number of searches. One of their searches in Tehran, they discovered a home where they suspect Mossad agents were building drones that were being used against against Iran. They also killed 6 men in a raid on a residential home in Sistan and Baluchistan province on Sunday. A number of weapons and explosives were recovered from the home. In Africa, killings took place in the Bapere village between Wednesday and Friday. This is according to Colonel Alain Kiwawa, the military minister of Lubero territory where the village is located. He noted that they had 30 people that were dead and at least 100 people that were being held hostage. Attacks that are blamed by the Islamic State, it's Islamic State-backed rebel group in eastern Congo, killed 52 people. So, both in northern Congo and in eastern Congo, they're having people that are getting killed. That's 52 people have been killed this month, according to UN peacekeeping mission that spoke on Monday. The attacks are by the Allied Democratic Force, ADF. Took place between the 9th through the 16th in Beni and Lubero territories in North Kivu province. And over in Somalia, the United States conducted 5 airstrikes and helped Somalia's military retake an important town from militants. Which is interesting because I don't remember anyone talking about deploying troops or helping the Somalian government. In the Americas, the Dow Jones Industrial Average ended the week at 45,597.86. The S&P 500 ended the week at 6,466.55. The Nasdaq ended the week at 21,495.70. In Colombia, a car bomb and an attack on a helicopter ended up killing 17 people. In Bolivia, a centrist senator, Rodrigo Paz, and I'm always laughing at this, right-wing former president, Jorge Tutu Quiroga, finished first and second in the first round of voting last Sunday. An unofficial early count showed that they probably have an unsaleable lead in the crowded race. This means that they have pushed out the leftist movement of former President Evo Morales, and the socialism will be dead in Bolivia after 2 decades, after 20 years of them choosing that. Most of the motivation of the voters is because the 12 million people is because they're mired in the worst economic crisis in 40 years, and voters are tired of it. Now, I asked how was Canada doing with those tariffs? How are they holding out? Well, they've decided to remove most of the tariffs on U.S. goods. The tariffs on U.S. auto, steel, and aluminum will remain in place. The rest will be removed or reduced. This week, in a talk in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, the chief of the Fed, Jerome Powell, said he may need to cut rates in September. Well, it's about time. The U.S. economy, while there is some strength, I know at my factory we're seeing a slowdown. So, with that news, Wall Street rebounded and soared to new highs on the hopes of lower interest rates, and surged 846 points, and that was on on Friday, yesterday. Now, between there's an interesting fight developing, and I noted, earlier, the partisan fight is going on between the Texas and California as they both decide to redraw their district maps. They're drawing the maps so that they can favor either party, the political parties. The trouble is that neither of the parties are identified in the Constitution. They're not defended. They're not protected. They're not supposed to even be there. But that's requires us getting up, getting together in our local areas and saying this is what we want and how we want things to work. Unfortunately, we don't do that enough, and so politicians, we cede the power to the politicians, and the politicians abuse it every time that you turn around. Now, over the past few years, the policy of one party has been to attack the current U.S. president. And I've warned people before that that's not a policy decision. And it sets a bad precedent. When you focus on one person, well, they're going to be there for 4 to 8 years, and then they're gone. So what policies are you following? Well, the policy of attack the president, because he is a divisive character. Either you love him or you hate him. That led to him being prosecuted in New York for several cases. And one of those this week was overturned by an appeals court, by a New York appeals court. And they threw out the massive financial penalty. And now the conviction still stands, which I think it's interesting. To have a feeling that's going to be overturned also. But they decided that the courts had abused their power and tried to bankrupt the current president, and that people, even if you don't like him, you still have to have a policy behind your plans and what you're trying to implement. You can't just tell people, "Hey, I hate that guy, so vote for me." Now, this week it was noted that by the U.S. president that 55 million visas have been issued for the United States. And due to a number of incidents that have occurred recently, the president decided that he's going to review these visas to see how many of them are valid and how many of them are of people that need to be picked up and sent back home. Now, add to this, officially we have 12 million people who made it into the country. Unofficially, it's probably at least double that. Probably 25 million people who are here illegally. Between the 55 million who may or may not be here and the 25 million, how many actual U.S. citizens do we have living in the United States? How many are left in the United States? Well, we'll see, and part of that is this is the reason why the U.S. president wants to have another census taken and have the fraud eliminated from it. Now, this week there was an explosion on a cargo ship in the Baltimore Harbor. The W. Sapphire had an explosion in its hold. It's unknown any number of casualties or the damage of the ship, but it is suspicious. It's another suspicious thing that's happened recently that gets me concerned. Over the past few years, a number of security officials were caught, and they have recently been exposed as having abused their power and promoting and pushing a political agenda. 37 former intelligence officials had their security clearances revoked this week. One of those officials was an officer that spent 20 years in U.S. intelligence and was a lead official on Russia and Eurasia in 2016. She coordinated work on the report detailing Kremlin interference in the elections that allegedly benefited the current U.S. president. Now, it's surprising to me that she's lasted as long as she has, considering the revelations of the past administration's cover-ups. I personally would have fired most of the people there long ago. I would have noted that having that job and having an intelligence clearance is a privilege. It is not a right. And if you fail in your job, which these people did, for political reasons, they stirred up trouble and to divert attention from their favored candidate. And that was because their favorite candidate was engaged in criminal activity, stealing classified data and putting it on a server at her home. One of the officials, past officials, had his home raided this past week. John Bolton was awakened by the FBI, and a number of boxes were being removed from his home and from his office. Now, add to this the Office of the Director of National Intelligence has decided that she's going to cut an additional number of staff. She's already eliminated 500 staff members, and it looks like she's going to eliminate another, or about 50% of the remaining staff, and they plan to save $700 million annually. Part of the changes, the agency will trim down the Foreign Malign Influence Center, which collects and analyzes data on foreign influence operations seeking to undermine U.S. democracy. And the United States is not a democracy, we are a republic. But I get what they're trying to say. Now, the president has deployed National Guard troops to help the police force in Washington, D.C. And for the first time in a long time, there were 0 murders reported this past week. It's also noted that carjackings are down 83%, robberies were down 46%, and car thefts were down 21%. Overall violent crime was down 22%, which I find pretty amazing. It's just a policy choice that people make to allow the crime to continue. Early this week on Monday, there was an outage of Starlink, and I make that note because Starlink is becoming a lot more integral in a lot of systems, especially military systems. And it's something that people need to pay attention to if you are planning on relying on Starlink for your communications in the future. Now, one of the incidences that prompted the U.S. president to conduct the review of all visas was when an illegal immigrant down in Florida on the Florida Turnpike conducted an illegal U-turn. He used the official use only area to turn and blocked traffic. Another vehicle came, unable to stop, and ran under the trailer that the truck was pulling. People were deeply offended when they saw the video and they saw the perpetrator of the crime had almost no emotion. Even when he was out of the vehicle and looked, he did not try to render aid. Now, he's looking at him and his dress. He appears to be Sikh. I don't know what their position is on accidents, life and death, and all that, but I kind of wonder, coming from a country of 1.5 billion people, if they have the same respect and reverence for life that we do in the United States. I don't know, and I'm not trying to make excuses for him. I mean, he's here. He needs to assemble like most everybody else assemble. He needs to assimilate like most everybody else who immigrants that are coming here. The carrier that hired him has a sketchy past also. It appears like they have followed a time-honored tradition of closing down a company whenever there starts to be some kind of trouble. In this case, a trucking company, when they start to get too many violations, they shut down the trucking company and they open up a new one under a new name. And they transfer the equipment and the personnel under the new LLC. That also has to be reviewed and checked. And as I understand it, the company is now under investigation. The last topic that I want to go over is the recall of shrimp. It was found that there was a number of shrimp that had been imported from Indonesia that had tested positive for radiation, specifically cesium-137 radiation. Now, that's actually pretty rare. It's actually normal to have some radiation wherever you go. But these shrimp were showing signs, and it wasn't just one place. Makes you wonder what was in the container that was carrying the shrimp. But it wasn't just one place. There were 4 ports. Remember Savannah and Los Angeles. I don't remember the other 2 at the moment. I believe Baltimore maybe was another one. But because there are so many different places, it makes you wonder who was doing what. Were these different containers? Were they previously carrying something, or was this a targeted attack that we have to be careful of? I don't know, but I will keep an eye on this because it's pretty important to watch our food supply. So that's all that I have this week for you guys. There are a number of things that continue to go on, and actually, yeah. I should note that follow up the deployment to Venezuela is to conduct operations against cartels, and the U.S. president he signed an executive order targeting the cartels, and he seems to be getting very serious about it. This is just another step, and well, we'll see where it goes. Hope you guys are doing well. I hope you're looking out after your families. Spend time with them, hug them, show some love. Much love to everybody here who's listening to me. Please like, share, and subscribe. This is Jeff Rains with Foundation of Civilization, Our Changing World, and thank you very much for listening, and I look forward to talking to you guys again very soon.